Nutrition science has always operated under uniquely difficult conditions. Unlike pharmaceutical research, which often benefits from randomized controlled trials, RCTs, and tightly controlled lab environments, nutrition studies must largely rely on observational data, tracking what people eat and how their health outcomes unfold over years or decades. These studies form the backbone of most dietary guidelines around the world. And yet, despite their influence, they are routinely criticized for being too imprecise, too subjective, or too prone to confounding. So, how do policymakers continue to rely on them, and are the conclusions truly trustworthy? At their core, observational studies are designed to detect patterns and associations rather than prove direct cause and effect. For example, if researchers find that people who eat more processed meat have higher rates of colon cancer, they can identify a correlation. But whether the meat causes the cancer, or whether those individuals also happen to smoke more, exercise less, or eat fewer vegetables, is harder to untangle. Confounding variables like socioeconomic status, cultural eating habits, and lifestyle behaviors can skew the results in subtle but significant ways. Still, dismissing observational data entirely would be a mistake. These studies have several strengths. They allow researchers to track large, diverse populations over long time frames, sometimes decades, which is essential for chronic diseases that develop slowly. They also reflect real-world conditions, capturing the complexity of human behavior and dietary patterns in ways that controlled lab studies often can't. Moreover, when the same associations appear repeatedly across different populations, time periods, and methods, confidence in the findings grows. For public health policy, this body of evidence must be interpreted carefully but pragmatically. Waiting for perfect RCT data on every dietary factor is unrealistic and sometimes unethical. For instance, no ethical trial would randomly assign participants to eat processed meats for 20 years to track cancer outcomes. Instead, policymakers use a totality of evidence approach, weighing observational data, mechanistic studies, short-term intervention trials, and biological plausibility. When multiple lines of evidence point in the same direction, say, that trans fats increase heart disease risk or that sugary drinks promote diabetes, strong policy recommendations can be made even without definitive causal proof. This is why many dietary guidelines, while grounded in observational data, tend to focus on general patterns rather than prescriptive rules. They emphasize eating more vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and lean proteins, while limiting ultra-processed foods, added sugars, and sodium, not because every individual study agrees, but because the overall trends are consistent and supported by biological mechanisms. Still, problems persist. Food frequency questionnaires, the most common tool in these studies, are subject to recall bias and underreporting. People often misjudge portion sizes or forget what they've eaten. And because diets are complex and often change over time, isolating the effect of one food or nutrient can be nearly impossible. This has led to confusion in the public sphere, where headlines often flip-flop between proclaiming foods as miracle cures or silent killers, depending on the latest study. It's not the science that's changing dramatically, it's often the way findings are communicated and understood. Policymakers must walk a fine line, acting decisively to protect public health while acknowledging uncertainty. The alternative, inaction in the face of imperfect evidence, can carry its own risks. The global response to trans fats is a good example of evidence-based policy success. Despite relying heavily on observational studies and mechanistic data, many countries implemented bans or restrictions. The result? Rapid declines in cardiovascular events and measurable improvements in public health. In the end, observational nutrition studies are imperfect but indispensable. They offer critical insights into how long-term dietary patterns affect health, even if they can't prove causation with the clarity of a lab experiment. As long as their limitations are recognized and balanced with other forms of evidence, they remain a vital tool in shaping dietary guidelines that protect the health of populations, not with certainty, but with informed and evolving judgment.